What's going out there? It's September 9th. Welcome to the Wall Street Unplugged podcast. So this is a part of a new format for Wall Street Unplugged where I, Frank Curzio, and senior research analyst Daniel Creech break down the top stories of the market, tell you what you really need to know. In other words, we weed out all the bullshit that's out there, which there is a lot of these days, and tell you, not just give you an opinion on these stories, but provide ideas on the best ways to make money from these stories that are on the market. And a lot of times there's going to be original ideas, really cool stuff. And with that said, let's bring in Daniel Creech. What's up, buddy?
Frank, what's going on, sir?
So, do you know this segment is the one that we, by far, we get the most emails on? Because I think we cover, like, the most controversial subjects, which is, COVID, if it's Bitcoin, everything out there, right? So the stories that you're going to hear in the media are always controversial, and that's what they want, and people going back and forth. But this is where we get the most emails. Positive, negative, everything. People pissed off, people happy, but emotional.
Oh, we must be doing something right then. Keep them coming in. So that's good stuff. That's good to hear.
Yeah. They say pissed off people. That's a good thing, right? I don't know if that's such a good thing if you read some of the emails that I read. But anyway.
A good mentor of mine told me a life story. He's like, you're nobody till you get fired. And that sounds good until you actually get fired. And I was like, well, I guess I'm somebody. I don't feel like somebody. I don't have a job.
Yeah. So lots of stories in the marketplace. I don't know where you want to start here.
Well, I want to start since we're doing a little new era here and we're doing a new season and kind of things like that. I saw one of your tweets over the last couple of days. I know you're big into fantasy football. College football started. Mm-hmm. Has the NFL started, or does it start tonight?
It starts Thursday. So Thursday it starts. Should be pretty cool. I got my fantasy football team. I've been doing it for over 30 years. I got to tell you, Dan.
Has fantasy been around that long?
Yeah, it's been around since you were looking. I used to look at newspapers to look at box scores within the newspapers. This was like early days of Emmett Smith, Barry Sanders, and stuff. Yeah, that's how long I've been doing it. I got to say, Dan, you're one of the few people under 40, male, right? Total stereotyping here, right? Which I always get in trouble with, that are not like engaged at all in fantasy and couldn't care less about it, right?
Yeah, I joined a group, it's been a few years ago now. I love the concept. I like looking at numbers and just stats and things. So even I don't follow the NFL or much football in general. I'm an Ohio State fan. That'll get some emails. I love the Buckeyes, and they are hated like, oh gosh, are they hated down here in Florida. Anyway, I love the concept. I love looking at lines. I look at lines all the time anyway. We BS about that. But yeah, I just don't, I'm not interested enough in the sport to follow it and put it. It takes time. Like you have to, and of course, when you like to win at everything, it's aggravating to join a league and then get beat, especially by your friends. Like that's the worst.
The best is when you have to hang in this. You see the people hanging their sign. Anyone's in fantasy football loves it because you see these people after the season. Like the bet is you have to wear a sign or you got to do something stupid.
Yeah, or you have a fun trophy. Like just seeing that kind of stuff.
But you got to go out in the public and stuff. And everyone who plays fantasy is like, "Yep, good job," and it's pretty cool. So
yeah, so I love following the numbers. I just like I said, I mean, I love following football lines, even if I don't care and watch any of the games. So, but yeah, it's exciting. It's good to have the. I know I heard a stat, Frank. This was just yesterday. 45 million people at least are expected to bet on football this season. Now, I was just running from here to the store, so that was I caught a commercial as I was scanning through some channels. But when I first heard that, I thought, well, that's not as many as I thought. And then I stopped, like 45 different people. That's a hell of a lot of people betting on sports.
I think that's
wild.
A conservative estimate.
Yeah, it seems a little low, right?
I would bet more on football. We can't bet in Florida. New York you could bet, but I can't bet in Florida. You can go on DraftKings and pick fantasy and bet that way, but you still can't bet.
I was going to say, you can do so, and I'm assuming all that's lumped in because I know people that, pick golfers and different pools and, like you said, DraftKings. I don't know all the apps out there, but that's just, man, the amount of money sloshing around on these games is awesome.
I mean, if you take the illegal part of it and made it legal, that number, I wouldn't be surprised if it doubled. Yeah. But it's crazy. But yeah, I mean, people like to bet, just like people like to drink alcohol and have a beer after work or whatever. It's kind of like, but again, it's always been that, it's not up to you. You're not good enough to be responsible, so we're not going to allow this anywhere. But yeah, it is interesting. But, speaking of I mean, so many plays in that area of the DraftKings, so many plays have done. I couldn't believe how much money, actually, now we're going to be on this subject. I couldn't believe how much money these companies raised. I think it was like 2 years ago. I mean, the valuations were incredible. The amount of money, tens of millions pouring into these companies. And I'm like, man, this is before like most states approve gambling. And I was like, wow, whenever you have to rely on the government, holy shit, it's pretty crazy because relying on the government, we saw, and this is one of the biggest stories, good segue, is Coinbase, right? So Coinbase came out and said that, hey, the SEC sent them a Wells letter, so kind of like investigating their lend division, which, by the way, their lend division for Coinbase, it's marketed as a high-yield alternative investment for traditional savings, so accounts where you could have annual yields of 4%, where we know it's like zero in most accounts. And that's who's that going to impact the most? Banks, right? So no surprise here what the fuck's going on. No surprise. But they've been dealing with the SEC, talking to them, and Coinbase signed up for pre-enrollment for this program, Lend, but the product hasn't been launched yet, and already the SEC has sent them a Wells notice, even though they've been working with the SEC. And, I mean, that's pretty crazy to me. I mean, I have my opinion on it.
Yeah, I can tell. Boy, this is going to be fun because Frank is chomping at the bit. We were talking about this as soon as I walked in the door this morning. Where do you want to start here? I like the fact that he took to Twitter. He did a feed of 21 different quick posts to try to educate his story.
Yep.
The first one is some really sketchy behavior coming out of the SEC recently, story time. Now, before we get into these details, Frank, you're Brian Armstrong, okay? Put on your Brian Armstrong hat. How many people are around him when he's tweeting this? You got to have some lawyers around, right? You got to have your upper management. You got to get these reviewed. I mean, this isn't off the whim because this is put together well. He's being a good. He comes across well in this, and he takes some shots, which I like, and I'll point out my opinion on that. But this is thought through, right? This just didn't happen last night. I mean, maybe the Wells and they have to disclose that kind of stuff. But what do you think? Give me that picture. How do you see that setting before he was tweeting all this out?
Here's a setting, okay? Because even I get this too. Whenever we want to say something or do something, you have to go through legal. Now, a publicly traded company, and I would go through legal. And here's what happened. He talked to this guy, Paul Grewal, and Paul Grewal, if I'm pronouncing it correctly, is a chief legal officer. He's a chief legal officer, okay? This guy is huge. This guy is vice president, deputy general counsel at Facebook, former U.S. magistrate judge for the U.S. District Court for Northern District, California. The guy's a big shot. So what happens is CEO goes to him and says, what do you think? And here's what he thinks if you're watching this on YouTube, because here is the SEC has told us it wants to sue us over Lend, that division. We don't know why. You know who that's written by? Paul Grewal, their chief legal officer. So I guess he gave him the okay to say, hey, you know what? This is total bullshit. Here's why I'm emotional about this. Because one is I know in this field, not for us, because we're just like a regular company, there's security token. We're a security, which is fine. 99% of the things that you're buying out there are not securities. They are not deemed securities, but they really are securities. And when the SEC changes that law, that's when I know security tokens is really, really, really going to take off, because a lot of those things are not going to be able to trade. And that was my thesis behind this whole thing. I can't believe that Coinbase is still out to trade hundreds of these. But they are right now because the SEC is sitting on their hands, and I don't want to say anything bad because, again, it is our field. They're sitting on their hands, and they won't provide regulation for this. So I know personally with the partners that we talk to who have exchanges in security, for security tokens, and also these security token trading platforms, these ATS as they're called, they are talking to the SEC also because they want to do the right thing. So here's Coinbase talking to the SEC and saying, hey, what do we need to do? Because obviously you guys are not letting us know. It's going to allow us to bring in more investors, do more things. And the SEC is like, just asking them for information. And all of a sudden, I know what comes out and decides to I wouldn't say sue them or anything. They didn't launch the product, but they came out against them. And, it's hurting the stock a little bit today and crypto in general. But the SEC needs to get off its ass. I mean, I'm on the side that you need some kind of protection. Investors need that protection, whether it's FDIC, insurance for your accounts. You need to know if Bitcoin gets sent to a different address or whatever, if you lose it, yet you know that you're insured, or if it gets stolen, right? You need these things in place. You need to have a tax system where you get taxed, capital gains tax like everybody else. Doesn't mean I want this whole entire industry to be regulated because some diehards are like totally against it, right? Totally against it. For me, in order to scale this thing to the masses, people have to feel safe. And I think, going on Coinbase, some people do feel safe. Some people I heard, hey, I lost money. I haven't heard back from them or whatever, I heard, some stories. But you have to have that safety. And then you have all these ETFs. You have all this stuff. And right on the SEC's nose, you know what happened, Daniel? You have an industry that went from a couple $100 million probably in 2010, 11 to fucking $2 trillion plus, where Goldman Sachs is in it now. Morgan Stanley's investing in it.
JP Morgan,
Jamie Dimon. Like, this is a fraud. If anybody trades this, I'm going to fire them. He's in it. He's in it now. You have huge hedge funds. You have tons of venture capitalists all over this industry, right? So you need to freaking regulate it. I mean, to put this in perspective, did a little homework on this. If you look at the Russell 2000, this is a $2 trillion market. The Russell 2000 is about $3.5 trillion, right? Which is huge. But to put in more perspective, $2 trillion is higher than the GDP of all but 8 countries. All but 8 countries. That's how big this market is right now. Yeah. And the SEC is just like, well, it's because security, and the Supreme Court has a definition of security, pretty much the most vaguest thing. Couldn't be more vague. Couldn't be more vague. It's like, there's a whole entire, like you're looking at a wall with 50 different colors and you're like, yeah, if you use some of those colors, you're going to be okay. Which ones? I don't know yet, but some of them. So nobody knows what the hell to do, and they want to know what to do because that's going to bring more investments in. So what pisses me off is here you have Coinbase trying to do the right thing, talking to them, the SEC turning around and saying, hey, you know what? Now we're coming after you. And the takeaway from this is, holy shit, is crypto going to be 10 times stronger? 10 times stronger because they're doing this. Because, me who's in the middle saying, okay, we need a little regulate, that's fine. And I know it because I understand the capital market side and know how much money could really pour into this industry if there's just a couple of rules in place that people know. Right now, there's not. But now you're looking at all the diehards who hate Wall Street, who hate the government, right? Who hate central governments that just print money no matter what. I mean, we just saw pretty soon all the debt's going to be wiped out for financial, student loan debt, right? And it's because, they need votes. It's not because anybody wants, to help these kids out or anything, right? So, hey, let's give free money to these guys. Here's a couple $1 trillion to end that. Now we have retirees, and if someone represented the retirees said, hey, you know what? Because inflation is going higher, they should all get checks for $1,200 to tell them the government. And, again, retirees are a business, and I want people to make money and earn more money. The money comes from someplace. You continue to print it, you're going to continue to have inflation, and holy shit, that's the biggest problem in the world because the Fed can't control that. They can't throw money at it. They have to take money out of the system. And if inflation goes a lot higher, which everyone in the world is predicting, the Fed and even hedge funds, that's going to come down. Whatever, we'll see. But here's my thoughts on this. I mean, one, you're making this 10 times bigger. It's going to require but people are going to hold this Bitcoin forever. It's going to be adopted in so many different countries because now it's like, here, this is what we hate about you guys. And here's a great example. We have a company that's one of the largest in the industry that went public, did everything by the book, has made big investors, and said, hey, SEC, we want to make sure we do this right. And now they're like, all right, well, we're going to come after you for this. So now who the hell is going to go to the SEC to try to get the regulations in place? For me, it's just total mess. But I think this strengthens the argument for Bitcoin and crypto.
Do you think it strengthens because it's going to kind of rally and get people's emotions even more fired up and like the momentum and people saying, hey, this is an individual freedom thing. So it's that little guy versus Goliath type deal?
It's not the little guy anymore. There's a massive class war going on right now. And you could see it with Robinhood.
Oh, I couldn't agree more on that.
You can see it with AMC. You see it with the Wall Street Bets crowd. I mean, these are guys that put a $12 billion fund out of business, almost out of business. They had to get funded.
Yeah.
You're looking at GameStop. I mean, Citron is one of the leading short-selling firms. I know them over there. They're great guys. I've met them before. And they're like, we're not shorting stocks anymore. They're putting firms out. So it's not like, hey, this little guy. These guys are getting stronger and stronger and stronger. And this, for me, is icing on the cake of, hey, why we don't want regulation, why everything should be DeFi, why, totally hands-off, controlled by blockchain, because we don't want assholes forcing our hand to do something. Gotcha. When we don't want to do it, or even if they do want to do it, right? They want it to be their choice. But for Coinbase to actually do the right thing, talk to the SEC, and the fact that you're looking at their site and their lawyers speaking publicly, CEOs speaking publicly, saying, listen, what the fuck, man? What do we need to do? And
well, let me tee one up here for you.
Go ahead.
Okay? Because let me ask a real simple question. So it sounds like, and you got to take all this with some salt, Hey, pinch or a punch of salt?
I think
pinch or punch? What
I've
movie is
heard
that from?
both, actually. A grain of salt, punch, pinch. I've heard punch.
There's a great scene in Donnie Brasco where Al Pacino and Johnny Depp, they're talking about that. He says, you say a pinch or a punch?
Pinch or punch.
I love that. Anyway, so take a little bit of salt here, but it does seem like Brian Armstrong and Coinbase is going along saying, hey, even though you haven't clarified that this is a security, which, by the way, what they're talking about is lending. And that's one of the Twitter feeds that Brian Armstrong tweeted out on his Twitter page is the SEC, responded by telling us this lend feature is a security. Okay, seems strange. How can lending be a security? So we asked the SEC to help us understand and share their view. We always make an effort to proactively work with regulators and keep an open mind. So let's give him the benefit of the doubt. They are going along as, hey, even though you're not clarifying it, we're trying to do everything right by the book as if we were doing lending on any other platform. So the easy question to tee up here is, so why is the SEC dragging their feet on this, Frank? What is the difficulty or reasoning behind not saying, hey, this stable coin or this crypto or whatever is a security, therefore you have to fall under this umbrella of rules? Why is that there? Why is there a gray area?
Politics and lobbying, right? I mean, finally, you're seeing the investment banks get into this industry, but this is an industry that disrupts the world. This is an industry that disrupts investment banking, where you don't need these guys. You don't need it disrupts middlemen. Investment banking is about middlemen. They make a fortune, on fees, right? So, hey, we know a lot of people. You want to raise money here? We'll get you guys together. Give us whatever, 2%, 6%, whatever the deal is. So when you're disrupting that, you're going to have those naysayers who have very, very high positions, who paid a lot of money to get these politicians in office. I know. I just been asked to go to a fundraiser myself. And what do you do with those fundraisers? Well, here's some money, and, I might, call upon you later on or ask you about something. I mean, that's the way it is.
Frank, are we making political donations as Curzio Research Company? Are we getting that big?
We're
on the map.
Funny, if you look, everyone says how, Facebook and Google, and they donate to Democrats. They donate to both parties. They just donate more to one party, right? So they're making sure that they're donating this way. Whatever happens, they have their ass covered. But, for one of the things, and I'm trying to find this quote here, because Brian Armstrong, just went on a whole thing here saying that the security thing, let's see how they get calculation. I want to see, this is very, very important, guys. And if I don't find, I know what they're talking about. So when Armstrong had a post with 8 different posts on Twitter, in 8 different segments, Daniel. So,
oh yeah, it's a ton. Yeah.
Yeah. So when he was, one of the things that shocked me that I think went under the radar, he's like, we should be regulated, by the way, like everybody else in the industry.
Yeah. His quote is, it's nice if you actually enforce it evenly across the industry equally, by the way.
Okay. Now, why is that important? Because I don't know what they're coming at for the lend product, right? Because they're going to provide, a higher interest rate, right? So, but I do know when it comes to lending, this is a massive, massive, massive industry, okay? Mm-hmm. It's 50 billion plus easily, because in April, somebody came out, and I forgot their name. It was, and I had a quote for them, but it was, God, I forgot the name of it now. It was a PointPay. So PointPay, market for crypto loans, Bitcoin, stablecoins, on pledges, collateral is estimated approximately 35 billion in 2021. This was in April, right? So I wouldn't be surprised if it's a lot bigger than that, right? Because even we interviewed people in BlockFi and stuff like that, but now BlockFi, I mean, you're looking at a company that's a $5 billion valuation on its latest raise. Galaxy Digital, Susquehanna, you have Fidelity, Coinbase Ventures, SoFi, Morgan Creek Digital. I mean, these guys are investors in BlockFi. Nexo is another big platform, more than $3 billion worth of transactions for over 800,000 clients in 200 countries, providing 5 to 10% interest in cryptos, $1.7 billion valuation. Binance, Crypto.com, Celsius. I mean, there's so many of these guys are doing this right now. And it's not so much where, I don't know if it's different, where it's more providing alternative for a savings rate or pledging crypto and being able to lend out money through crypto or earn interest on crypto. But if this is covering the whole entire industry, these guys are shaking in their fucking boots right now, especially the ones that have U.S.-based offices, right? There's a reason why you have IO at your even guys that I know that do all their business in the U.S., they're creating IO addresses this way because they don't know what the hell the SEC is going to do. We're light years behind most countries in crypto. Light years behind, and nobody knows what the hell to do. These companies are trying to find out the right way to do it because they're doing the right thing. Coinbase provides a nice, easy platform for people to buy, anyone to buy Bitcoin. We've seen the security token industry as well, but the SEC has to get off their ass and let us know. Let us know what the rules are, because if they're going after Coinbase because of this lending practice, and I pretty much put this all in the same boat here. Holy shit, these companies are in a lot of trouble. Because if they say you cannot open this, you can't do this in the U.S., holy shit. I mean, these guys are still going to exist, but now they're going to be out of the U.S. where you can't invest in. And I know a lot of these guys have tons of U.S. customers. Yeah. As these platforms build. Hey, you can earn 4%, 5%, 7%, just, on this crypto and sending emails. And all you have to do is sign up to one of these platforms and constantly. This is massive. We're talking about tens of millions of people.
Yeah.
I can guarantee you tens of millions of people. They might say, well, 2-3 million. No. I mean, there's 10 million on some of these platforms that I know of that are doing this, just on one platform. So that's the scary part of this. At the end of the day, I think it's going to strengthen the case for crypto. The diehards are going to be in it. Hollywood's going to be in it even longer. But it's just, hey, now you got us to work with the government, the largest company in crypto to work based on market cap, to work with the government. We're trying to work with the SEC, and the SEC turns around and does this. I mean, you don't see legal officers, Daniel, get on, their blogs and everything and explain how, listen, this is so much bullshit. It's a joke.
Yeah, and one of the tweets, he calls out the SEC. He was in D.C. Brian Armstrong was meeting with different regulators and things, and the SEC was the only regulator that refused to meet with him. So it does seem, I think you're correct in the saying of, hey, this is a disruptive, this is disrupting one of the biggest industries in investment banking. It's not going to be welcomed. So what do you think about the guy going out on Twitter? Like, you've said this in the past, and you've shared this story, when you guys had your tussle with the SEC, you don't want to fight these guys. But we're in a realm now where you can get backing, you can go public with it, you can put everything out there. I respect what he's doing, and I'm thinking of, so Coinbase is down 3% today. Galaxy Digital is up 2% right now. Of course, this could all change. That's interesting to me on the price action when you see headlines like this. That does tell me that there's a lot of momentum out there for investors. And me, I've said this several times over the past several podcasts. Galaxy Digital is one that I'm averaging into. I like that idea. We've dubbed that the Goldman Sachs of crypto, hopefully. We can only hope they're as corrupt and successful as they are, Frank. That'd be amazing for us and our subscribers. But, I just think how that's hilarious it's going up today. Mike Novogratz that runs that was saying, I think just yesterday in an interview, hey, there's too many institutions now that look at this as a store of value. And I think he referred to Bitcoin and crypto as the Web 3.0, and nobody wants to miss the next internet boom. So I think this is a lot bigger than just the lending and what's in the spotlight right now, to your point. Mm-hmm. I'll admit, though, it's nerve-wracking to see somebody go after the SEC. It reminds me of when Schumer said, hey, you go after the national intelligence community, they can screw you 6 ways from Sunday. So
yeah, and the reason why I have history, this is my late dad, and I told the story before where the SEC came after him. He was a very small business. We weren't, his definition of success was having a nice farm upstate, and we didn't have a huge company or anything like that. But his performance, his track record showed up in an institutional magazine, Pension Investments. And the next day, the SEC came in and said, all right, we're going to look at all your marketing and everything, basically shut us down. We couldn't send out anything. We couldn't do anything. That was 90% of our day providing information for them. We provide information for them. We hear back 2 months later, 3 months later, whenever they feel like it, right? So they could do whatever they want. It's the government. At the end of the day, they're like, oh, well, we really didn't find anything, only tiny things like this and the font size and stuff like this. And our lawyer at the time, we decided to sign it because, he didn't know any better. And said, yeah, it's a $500 fine. Just sign it, get over with so you can get back to business. And they put his name in the Wall Street Journal and said, FXC investors fined by the SEC. Yep. That was my experience with it. An honest guy who turned down money where he saw people's portfolios and said, I can't do anything for you. And for me, that scarred me for life. And I've been at places where, they walk that line. They're like, well, if the SEC, they don't have a case. I'm like, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if they have a case. It doesn't. If they come after you, especially small companies, you're going to be done.
Absolutely.
It's going to require all your resources. It's going to require tons of legal fees, and they can be, and they'll tie it up for 2, 3, 4, 5 years. Whoever's donating the most to them, whoever has the best ties to them. That's the way it is. And it's crazy. So I don't care how big your firm is. There's a reason why every investment bank has a slush fund set up for those fees, and it's automatic. We're going to admit to no wrongdoing, but here's $20 million. Here's $30 million. And even Jamie Dimon, after a while, they got fined, I think, 80 freaking times for the credit crisis. And he's like, all right, guys, you're done. All right, we get it. You're done. Okay, you can't keep fining us for the same thing. And sure enough, the SEC was like, okay, Jamie Dimon said we're done. So, we're not going to fine anybody for the credit crisis anymore. If you notice, they don't anymore. But they, and then they admit no wrongdoing. But it's almost like, hey, this is what we have to do. Here's what's going to come. And these guys get the heads up when they're getting come after, when they're going to get, again, they have so many ties. You look at the SEC, the biggest names in the SEC, and once you get that high, you're making decent money, but you're going to make 10x to 25x more by going someplace else, and that's where the Goldmans and everybody else, and they're going to hire all these people. Yeah, that's the system we're in. So you don't ever want to fight the SEC. So I don't agree with these guys are doing, but I feel like these guys did the right thing and said, hey, we want to work with you. Let us know. Even the ETFs, the Bitcoin ETFs, the SEC's not making it clear. People are like, what the fuck? How come we can't launch these things? Yep. You could buy Bitcoin. You could buy 15 different things right now in America on how many different platforms? On Coinbase or whatever, Gemini, whatever you want to do. But yet we can't have an ETF for all these? Why? Just tell us why. SEC's like, nope, we're not going to tell you why. Are you deeming these things securities? If you do, which I think almost every crypto should be a security outside maybe the top 5 or 7 that have, Ether, Bitcoin, utility features or whatever. But most of these utility tokens are going to be securities, and then they're going to have to show everything, and none of them want to show everything because a lot of these guys spent their money. They got like 3 Lamborghinis. You don't have to say, you have to disclose anything. Your financials, what's going on, the insiders, all this shit changes if you're a security. I know, because we are, we have to show our financials. We have to show everything. That's the way I want it to be, right? This way there's transparency in this industry, launching our security token, Curzio Equity Owners. But anyway, enough of that. We want to keep this 30 minutes. I think we went about 22, 23 minutes with that subject. But 2 other things I wanted to talk to you about is semiconductors. Big stories coming out saying that it's going to be years, not quarters, not second quarter, like the CEO for Ford was telling you, like the CEO, Barrett was telling you from General Motors. Oh, this is a short-term problem. The next quarter, and based on my sources, based on how much I was telling everybody, again, I'm not patting myself on the back or anything, just great information from people out there.
Oh, take a victory lap.
I'd rather take a victory lap on Azarga uranium, which got taken over. They say it's a merger, got taken over. This is something I invested in since 2017, 18, and I told numerous times about the uranium story, and incredibly bullish. Last podcast and told you the 2 of my biggest positions, uranium royalty and also Azarga. Azarga I've owned forever and just had and kind of forgot about it, and just sort of got taken over at a 2 to 3x premium, but when all is said and done. So that one I will. Hopefully people listen, because there's a lot of shit in that industry and a lot of dilution, and people are never going to produce. But that was one I was proud of, and hopefully a few people actually bought that. But the auto industry, you're seeing like 40, 50% declines in production, 60%. Nobody was really talking about that. I'm like, these CEOs are freaking lying to everybody. Now you had several CEOs come out, Volkswagen, Mercedes, that this could be years before the supply chain gets in order. Where these fabs, they take a very long time to build. And there's no capacity at the Taiwan semis and everything else. They're locked up, waiting the iPhones and whatever. And those guys were smart, locking in that capacity where the autos were kind of on the sideline saying, well, let's wait and see. And they waited too long and there's no capacity for these chips. And man, it's kind of hard to run a business when you can't sell your main product, isn't it?
Well, you would think so. The bigger picture there is, hey, these things unfolded. We didn't get to this problem overnight. I mean, granted, the shutdowns and everything like that in the supply chains, those were short-term, but short-term events, excuse me. But the auto industry over the last years was going to this as-needed supply chain, and I get it because you want to be as lean as possible. You're not ever planning on, a pandemic and a shutting down of the economy and such. But, hey, that's the reality we're at now. So that's not just going to change overnight. And Intel, we've talked about this, they're planning massive investments. I mean, multi-billions of dollars in these fab facilities, chip fab facilities, where they're going to create and start building these. But again, Frank, that ain't going to happen overnight. So the big picture there is that, it's like a giant ship. It's going to take some time to turn or reverse course. It is interesting. The stocks are holding up good, though. It's just amazing the benefit of the doubt the market's giving everybody right now because, to your point, I don't think Ford or GM has gotten hurt over the last couple months, even when they announced these big production cuts and things like that. And, the street's basically just saying, all right, well, you told us it was going to be a lot easier, a lot better by now, and now you're saying it's going to drag on, but there's no real punishment.
Ford touched 16 in June, and, we kind of did those problems then, and, we started highlighting a lot of those problems, and now it's 13. So, that's a pretty big decline.
But even at the beginning of the year, it was 8 or 9, right?
Oh, yeah. Well, the beginning of the year, I'm just talking about the supply. When they
absolutely.
were like, these chips and, you got to watch out and stuff like that. And here, I'll just, post this chart right here that, again, I'm just use CNBC to use free sites for you guys.
So would you be a buyer of Ford or GM yet? Or you think you're going to avoid it?
I really like Ford.
Buy, short, or ignore?
I would ignore now. I told people to get out of it at a lot higher price than this. So over 15. Not a lot higher, but enough to say, hey, you know what? Yeah. This asshole's going on TV and telling everybody that, hey, our EV portfolio is great. And oh my God, this is great. I'm like, you need to say that production is going to decline by 60%. That's a pretty big freaking deal for investors. So no, be transparent. It's not your fault. It's an industry-wide problem, right? It's not particularly your fault. It's every auto across the industry, right? So just be freaking honest. How do I have access to that information and they don't? It's impossible. They have access to that fucking information. They just don't want to tell you. And that's sad. And that's the market we're in, right? So, our EV portfolio is great. Technology, 2025, 2030, 25% of cars are going to be electric, everything, even though there's zero freaking infrastructure. And just assuming that everyone's going to give up their gas guzzling car, which takes 1 second to fill a freaking thing up because there's 3 gas stations within a half a mile of your house. Now you want people to learn a whole new system of something that's incredibly easy, and you're just assuming, again, if it's mandated by the government and they force your hand, that's different. But I just don't see a lot of people going, oh, all right, let's do this whole thing. And I got to look on a map to see where the infrastructure is. So, hey, I like to drive, 350 miles, 500 miles to see my family. Okay, where do I have to stop? Where can I get the charge from? I mean, it's compared to just going right here and find gas stations everywhere. It's not, when you disrupt markets, it's supposed to be easier, not learn more about something and make it, an extra 2-3 steps for people. Don't get me wrong. Electric cars are great. I believe in them. Tesla's done an amazing job, and they have great models coming out. Just the adoption numbers that I'm seeing where everyone's just going to be like, oh, my God, we got to get an electric car. I think you're out of your mind. But again, I'm going off a little bit here and a little pissed off. But, overall, with the chip sector, you're asking me about Ford and whether we should buy. I would avoid it because now they're saying years. Okay, I would buy this stock right here at 13 and think it's worth a lot more. If you have a 5-year time horizon, buy it now. If you have a 2-year time horizon, this thing lasts to 2023 when they still have plants that are idled, which kind of seems like that could be the case now, right? That was off the table. It was, the end of this year, we're definitely going to be good. Now we're looking into mid next year and we're still having these problems. Yes, it's a demand issue and that's a good thing, but I think it goes lower and you could buy it cheaper here, but until I see more transparency of when this thing is going to bottom, you can give them if you got 6 months left, I would buy it here. But if it's years, you're going to see these stocks get hit a lot more. Hopefully the CEOs will do something that they haven't done in this industry for a very long time and be honest with people. So maybe that's too high of expectations for a publicly traded auto company. I don't know. Yeah,
possibly. I would avoid them. I'll ignore them. I'll read some headlines, stay on the pulse. I continue to think the most boring, easy, low-hanging fruit is Intel. I think the market's going to be forward-looking. I like the activist in that. I like the fact that they have a new CEO and he's got big aspirations and big plans. And I think he's saying what needs to be said and hopefully they can execute. So I would park money there and hide out and be boring. That's
boring's
Intel.
Good, but Intel is, you always have a good dividend and, we all know about all the mess ups that they have.
Yeah, exactly. They've dropped the ball a bunch
and stuff. I mean, the highs are 68, it's 53 right now, but this is a stock that you're seeing good numbers. The stock's down a ton. Hasn't done nothing since May.
Yep.
And it's literally flat since May. I mean, just, I'll show you guys really quick, flat since May. But you look at a stock that did ramp higher. And then again, they just, I don't get it. Like, how did they not swallow up AMD? How did they let NVIDIA do what they did? How did they not learn from these people, learn from these technologies, seeing what they're getting into? I mean, that's a management problem that's an AOL problem. That's a BlackBerry problem. When you see your competitors kicking ass, you need to make a statement. You need to either poach people to survive, which again is not like, people don't like that. But again, it is Wall Street. And you just saw Ford poach someone from Apple, right? Which is in the news on CNBC and everything. One of the lead car guys, whatever. But you have to stop it. You have to find a way to compete. And when you see these guys and how much they excelled, and there's so much, AMD, did you ever think AMD? I mean, holy cow, AMD, man. What is it? So market cap is $215 billion for Intel. Let me show you this. And let me see what AMD is now, which is past 100. Finally, try to test that. Oh, it's still like half the size, $130 billion market cap. But, and NVIDIA is just like the king, right? So
yeah, those things just go up every day.
Holy cow. I mean, you just, sat by and how are you not getting into graphics that, so it's more than twice the size of them. Almost $600 billion market cap now, but just crazy stuff that I see. Now we want to keep this segment 30 minutes, but it is a good conversation with 33. We're going to go over something very, very quickly, and that's COVID, because we get the most emails on this. So I love hearing FrankCurzioResearch.com, Daniel at CurzioResearch.com. There you go. Now, hey, you want to be on this segment, you got to take the heat along with me, but a couple of things. People are putting words in my mouth about COVID, which I kind of hate. And I'm not anti-vax. You can't be in the middle of everything, right? You can't be in the middle of anything. And I think that's what the value that we have, because there's no bias. Where, I'm telling people to get the vaccine. If you want to know, right here, guys, I got my first dose, right here. And my arm hurts a little bit. I got it yesterday. And I got to get the next dose in a couple of weeks. But I got it because it's required and need to travel. And the only reason why I didn't get it is I'm not telling nobody not to get it. It's your choice if you want to get it. But for me, again, Dr. Gottlieb said, everybody said, we don't know. We think those antibodies last for 6 months, 8 months, 9 months. I don't know. But I will tell you something that's pissing me off. And we are going to get, this is important from an investment perspective. Okay, I talked about this on Tuesday. monologue. I want to know, okay, this is what pisses me off about this shit, because there's no transparency, right? There's no data. Why don't we have data? This is a very important data point. Like, the people who already had COVID like me, why don't we have stats? Stats like how many people had COVID, don't have the vaccine, and got Delta, compared to people who are vaccinated and getting Delta, because there's a ton of people that are vaccinated. Almost everyone I know that has gotten vaccinated. When I ask them, a lot of people are vaccinated in Florida, believe it or not. At least a lot of people that I know. And everyone that's getting it says, hey, I was vaccinated and I got it. So I'm not saying that the vaccines don't work, because it is reducing the death, but it doesn't do what the government told us it would do, right? You never have to wear masks again. You're fine. You're going to be immune and stuff like that, which is not true. I mean, first round, right? New strand comes around, Delta, and people getting infected. Again, not as bad, so it's good that they have the vaccine. But you have natural antibodies in your system when you get COVID. And they don't know how long they last. Yet you're mandating those people get the vaccine anyway without having that data. That's a really big fucking deal. So the emails that you get and the craziness, I could tell you this, okay? COVID is here forever. It's going to be here forever. You're going to see more strands. Booster shots, if you want to buy the best thing ever. I mean, you're talking about tens of billions of dollars right now for Moderna, BioNTech, Pfizer. And I assure you that these were not modeled. They're not being modeled, those numbers. Those numbers that they have at 100 billion in sales for Moderna and crazy numbers like that I thought was crazy and not crazy anymore. Those are for everyone, the billions of people getting the vaccine, getting both doses. However, they did not include booster shots, one or two of them every single year, which is clearly what we're going to need. Clearly, at least for this year, probably next year, they're talking about 2 boosters, 3 boosters. That's great for Pfizer. They're going to be pushing that, Moderna and stuff like that. Again, let's see how long the natural immunities last, but, who cares? Nobody cares. Just got to get the vaccine. But why don't we have that data? I'm curious to know if people had COVID, did they get it again without having the vaccine? Because then those antibodies are lasting longer than if you're getting the vaccine, which is pretty interesting. But those numbers are so easy to figure out. I mean, who took the vaccine and who didn't take the vaccine, right? You know it. So if people had COVID, they didn't have the vaccine. Do they have COVID again? Right? Those are statistics that are measured, right? We have it. Why can't we come out with that stat? I mean, you explain it to me. Why the fuck can't we come out with a stat that I think is incredibly relevant, but yet, we don't have that transparency?
Oh, I don't have an answer to that. I mean, there's the takeaway here is that they're just, I don't know how anybody has any faith in the officials that are quote unquote the smartest people in the room. I'm a little skeptical in general from the get-go. The big depressing thing for me is, and maybe we've joked about this in different tobacco stocks and things like that, but COVID is here to stay. You're always going to have the new, it's like naming hurricanes. They're always going to be a letter in the alphabet for some new variant. And so the depressing thing is for me is that we've accepted this as a society in less than 2 years' time. That I don't want to be a Debbie Downer. I'm an optimistic guy, but that's depressing is the fact that, okay, now everybody's already lined up for these booster shots. Everybody's just like, okay, this is the new normal. That's not a good situation from a society, in Daniel Creech's opinion. The investing side of that is, if that's the case, if that's the new reality, Frank, why in the hell aren't we going to recommend pharmaceutical stocks then? I mean, that's got to be the closest thing to a guarantee as we can ask for now. And don't get me wrong, Moderna, I was hoping, and this is why you can't invest and make your decisions on emotions or hopeful. You got to invest and make your decisions on what the world is, not the way you want it to be. Honestly, I was hoping Moderna and none of them got a boost from all this. I was just hoping, hey, these vaccines come out, yeah, even though I didn't buy it all. But yeah, we missed that. And so we haven't missed it going forward. So we have to do that for subscribers, and we have to pay attention and at least give them those options and saying, hey, here's the way the world is. If this is the new normal, this is going to be a cash machine for these guys, and it's done on purpose. And, you don't have to, it's just like a tobacco company. You don't have to choose it or invest in it, but it's one of that's one of the easiest ways to make money, I think, is going to be in pharmaceuticals, and that's prices. Depressing.
And I don't know if I'm the guy to listen to, because when Moderna was like 100, I told people they were crazy to own it. It's over 400 now, because one is they weren't seeing the results that Pfizer was seeing. I knew Pfizer was going to come out before them. A lot of skeptics, even within the management team, and I was like, hey, these guys are modeling for crazy, crazy freaking sales. And sure enough, listen, that happened. They were right, and I didn't see that coming. But now it's not like, hey, don't ever buy Moderna. But obviously, the booster shots are coming. Moderna's going to be a little bit later, but everyone who got the Moderna is probably going to want that booster shot. I don't know if you have to get that. Again, just give us information. We want to know. The bottom line here is, people get the emotions that come out are incredible when we talk about COVID. Okay. And everyone's going to have a different opinion. Someone emailed me today and said, hey, I just had a friend that died. You know, he's like, I don't hate you, but you're going to have a different opinion if you have a family member that died. You're going to have a different opinion if you're young and this doesn't impact you. You're going to have a different opinion if you're over 70 and you have underlying conditions. Everyone's going to have different opinions. What I want to try to do is provide as much statistics. This way you could come up with your own decision to see if, hey, this makes sense, this doesn't make sense in a non-biased way. What I will tell you from a stock perspective is people are getting used to it, Daniel. Like you said, like, you know, in 2 years, they're getting used to it. Even some people are starting to wear masks again. We're seeing that even in Florida, right? And everyone's complaining, Florida, look at the death rates. The death rates in Florida from COVID per 100,000, they're not even in the top 15 in states right now. And this is data as of 2 days ago. They're not even in the top 15. So again, facts and figures that you would never know from listening to the media, because Florida, everyone lives here is a bunch of irresponsible assholes and want everyone to die from it doesn't want the vaccine. Yet, that's a fact. So out of the 100,000, based on, per 100,000, you're looking at COVID case deaths. Florida is not even in the top 15 states. And one death is too much. And I understand. But when I look at this as a whole, people are getting used to it. They're not fearing it as much as they did. This is something I talked about on Tuesday. And what that means is start looking for those reopen trades, because you saw casinos take a pull back. Wynn Resorts, which is based in Macau, things are kind of better in China. I mean, we had data come out that, wasn't as good, macro data, but again, it's hard to believe anything out of China. But Wynn's down like 35% off its highs. We recommended a company in CRA, Curzio Research Advisory, that was down 40% from its highs, which is like pre-COVID levels. Yet, I mean, the numbers that they're going to see are going to be explosive, and they're starting to see that right now. They just reported great numbers. So, the Expedias, the airlines, if you're seeing these things pull back, and you're going to see them pull back with Delta and then Muse and next strain and whatever, people are getting used to it. They're learning how to live with it. They know if they get the vaccine, you're seeing results that aren't as bad, where it prevents deaths, the death rate tremendously, right? It brings it down tremendously. You're seeing more people get vaccinated, right? This latest push in Delta is definitely getting more people vaccinated. People are going to feel more comfortable. Businesses are going to feel more comfortable. It may be 3 months, 6 months, 9 months, Daniel. I don't know how long that would take. But I could tell you that, I don't know when, but it's a guarantee that the profits these companies are going to generate are going to be enormous. And some of these names are still down from their pre-COVID highs and recently got hit in the past few months. And I think some of them are exceptional buys, because they're going to come back. Business is going to be as normal as ever. And again, the only factor is, how long is it going to take? I don't think it's going to take longer than 18 months. Maybe it does. But even if it does, if you're a long-term holder, the Wynn's, Expedias, casinos, hotels, airlines, I think they're fantastic buys. A lot of these have pulled off the 20-25% off their highs and still well below COVID highs. And I think those are really good buys. Yeah,
absolutely. I mean, it's a win, not if. I give you that. I think that's a good way to sum it up there. Yeah. It's a win, not if proposal on that side. So
yeah. So
hey, this was a lot of fun. No wonder I'm shocked we get so much feedback and emails on this segment.
Daniel@CurzioResearch.com. There it is. Send all your emails to that guy.
All of them.
He's the guy. He forces my hand. That's what it is. No, he doesn't.
I do.
But, Daniel and I have different opinions on lots of things. And believe it or not, we don't hate each other at the end of the day. So I don't mind getting emails, especially when people send me data and I'm going back and forth. We always want to get the story right. You could have emotional topics and debate them and be friends at the end of the day. You don't have to have extremes where no vax at all. Everyone in the world mandated. You need to get the vax or everyone's going to die. Those fucking extremes. I could tell you from investing, when you follow extremists, you get murdered. You get freaking murdered. I've seen it time and time again. Those guys get rich because the stories they tell are so enticing and people buy their books and shit like that. But when you have extremes, if you're investing in extremes, that's when you get killed. You need to figure out the facts. And when you do figure out the facts and the numbers, it allows you to take advantage of those inefficiencies, especially in investing, which is what I've done pretty much my whole entire career. So guys, Daniel, thank you so much for coming by. I really appreciate it, bud.
Always a good time. See everybody next week.
And again, we're going to keep these at 30 minutes, but big topics there, so this went a little bit longer than expected, but we will click these segments to 30 minutes going forward. Questions, comments, feel free to email me, frank@CurzioResearch.com. And as always, I'll report back to you guys soon and appreciate all listeners, all the support. I really do. I'll see you guys in a few days. Take care.